So then let's create our first document. So you're going to go back to this page right here, and we're going to go over to the Create New button on the left side. So just open up InDesign. It should come to right here. Go to Create New. If it doesn't for some reason, all you got to do is go up to File, New, and then Document to get to that. So we're going to hit the Create New button right here, and it's going to bring up this little wizard right here for us to sort of enter in the settings that we want. We can give it a name right here. So for example, we could make this, I don't know, a pamphlet or something like that. And then we can give it a width. We can give it a height. We can give it, now these are going to be set in its default, which is picas, but we can change it to millimeters, centimeters, inches if you're in the empirical system, or if you're working with some web stuff, you can change it to pixels so that that works best for that. You can change the orientation right here, portrait, landscape, and then the pages. Is this a one-page document, or is this, a 400-page document, which I don't even know. Yeah, it does allow that. So you can, change how many pages it's going to start with right here. We're going to go ahead and let's just make this a 2-page document. And then down here is a starting number. So let's say you're creating a new project for chapter 2 of a book. You don't want it to start at page number 1. You want it to start at page number 37 or 48. So you can enter that right here and it'll start there, and that'll save a little bit of a headache later. It's not permanent, but it'll save some headache later. Beneath that, you have some organizational features. So we have columns, we have column gutter, margins, bleed, and slug. We're going to be going over those in depth later, but understand they're right here for you to change and for you to actually save into a preset so that every time you create a document, you don't have to redo the margins, the columns, the bleed, and the slug. If you really, really like this, let's say we like this and we're going to be using a lot, we can go ahead and hit the save preset, and then we can give it a name here. So let's say this is the pamphlet for work. And we can click Save Preset like so. And then you'll notice over here is the recent. So this is going to be a continuous thing of the ones that you've used in the past. If they're the same, it's not going to create a second entry. But if you go like back and forth between them, they're going to go across. And then once they're over here, if you create another one, it's going to go off, and then it deletes it forever, and you won't be able to see it anymore. So that's what saving will allow us to do, is it's going to allow us to click on the Save tab, and they'll always be in here. So we can just scan through this and choose the one that we want, and then it'll reset everything for us. So for example, if I clicked on, let's just go into here and click on one. Now I go into Saved. If I click Pamphlet Work, it just resets everything for us. Over here, we have something called Print, which is just going to be all the presets for printing out different things. You'll notice that on Adobe, there are actually some presets and some templates that you can download and start from a template if you want to. But if we click the expand button right here, it's going to expand it downward, and you'll see that it's basically listing out all the common ones. So this is probably covering like 80% of the users are going to use something in here. You'll notice the A series, which you talked about earlier. It's just going to have a couple of the most common ones here, A5, A4, A3, and then right there is B5. And then you have a business card, a compact disc, letter, and legal. Those are also standardized terms. Letter is an 8x11 in the empirical system. I don't really know what it is anywhere else, but that's the letter and the legal right here. And then if we move over to the web, you'll notice that we have a bunch of different web settings. So we have the A4 and the letter, which are actually used sometimes on the web. But then we have a bunch of different common dimensions of monitors and websites and stuff like that. If you work in the web, a lot of these are going to be very familiar, like the 1024 and the 1366. So if you understand the web, they're right here for you. But if you're not going to be, you're thinking you're not going to go on the web, doesn't matter. You can just stick with the print. Over here, we have even more of a sort of localized area, and that is the mobile market. Now you'll notice there's some really neat settings in here. You can specifically target like an iPhone 6, 6S, and you'll notice that they're up to the iPhone 7 or 8 right now. So it's a little bit lagging behind, but that's okay. You can start from one of these and then look up the dimensions and sort of change just some of the settings around. And it has stuff like the Surface Pro, the Kindle, and the iPad as well. So once you kind of have the settings locked in and loaded, you can just click. We're going to go with these. All you have to do is click the Create button, and it'll create your document for you in the settings that you would like. If you would like to change the settings once you've created a document, let's say maybe you made it too big or too small, you can just go ahead and click the X button and start over. So if we click that button, it's just going to go out. Or once we're already in here, so let's go ahead and recreate that basic again. If we're already in here, what we can do is we can actually go up into the file and then down to document setup, and you'll see that there's basically all the options right here. You have the width, you have the height, you have the page size. You can choose all the little customizable the presets that have been saved right here. But the problem is that it's going to spread out a couple of the options. So you have bleed and slug down here, but your margins and columns are going to be in a different place. So if you cancel out of here, you go up to layout and margins and columns are going to be right here. So it's just going to separate a little bit, but you don't have to, be confined to what you created when you created the document. Just understand it's easiest when you create the best document for starting, because you don't have to go through and find all the little settings and change them around. You also aren't confined to only creating one document and only creating it from that screen. If you want to go through the exact same process, you can just go up to File, click on the New, and then click on Document right there. And it's going to bring up that screen right here. And if I clicked through on here, it's going to put the second one right to the right of the first one. So now you can see we can kind of jump back and forth between the two documents. And we can do this, 100 times if we wanted to. So the starting screen, it's easiest to do there. The reason they put the create button to the left over here is just because if there's nothing open, they're like, maybe you want to create something or maybe you want to open up a document. So you can just do one of the two, create it, and then jump into it. But once you're inside, maybe you want to create something else. That's when you go up to File and you can go to New right there. But that is the basics of how to create a document in Adobe InDesign.